what is going to be the expectations for Alex Golesh? I think it's going to be dependent on what that defensive staff is and the narrative around that. Who are you going to bring out at the quarterback position? More than likely through the portal. It could be KJ Jackson, unless he hops in the portal. Alex Golesh, the South Florida coach, reportedly has made his decision. Now, based on everything I can read, he is going to Arkansas. There is a press release from the South Florida side of things that say that we have acknowledged that he is going to be exploring potential options. If you're reading the tea leaves, it looks like Arkansas has made their decision. I think they were waiting to see what Auburn was potentially going to do. I think Auburn had crossed Golish off of their list. Auburn was going to be number one on the priority list, and then we're going to see who was going to be next up. So it looks to be like Alex Golesh was the guy that got crossed off that list. This is, I guess, a pretty volatile reaction. I've seen people say this is a slam dunk hire. I've seen people question how good was Alex Golesh at his time during South Florida. And I think if we can encapsulate what was his time at South Florida, it was, yeah, sure, 7-6, currently 8-3, and more than likely not going to be playing or coaching in the bowl game. And you may see that 7-6 and say, well, he's only coached at the G5 level for 3 years. He originally was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee. He's an offensive-minded guy, and he didn't even crack double-digit wins, and now he's going to get a Power 4 job at that, an SEC-level job. I could understand the risk. If you were just getting the sticker shock and getting your first, I guess, reaction to who Alex Golesh is, I would understand the concern. The thing with Alex Golesh and USF that you have to really double click into and not just look at the record and understand is this is a coach that not only built USF up that was dead in the water as one of the better group of 5 teams, but this was a team that was always punching up their weight class. Their offense was always really damn good. Byron Brown last year was injured, and they still managed to have a pretty productive season. And then this year, we saw how good USF was. They beat Florida. This is a team that put Alabama and Nick Saban on the ropes. This is a team that has found a ton of different ways to punch up their weight class. And I think that's important to note when we're talking about the Arkansas job. Because when we look at Arkansas in 2025, a team that really doesn't have their identity, you have a fan base that is holding on to every last bit of their past. I mean, we're talking about a fan base that was wanting Bobby Petrino to still be their head coach. He currently was the interim. He's not the full-time coach anymore, and that's a good thing. You don't need to be holding on to the past. I think at the bare minimum, Alex Golesh is a move for the future. A young coach that you're taking a flyer on, because at the end of the day, Arkansas is not going to have a talent roster that is going to be comparable to the Alabamas of the world, the Georgias of the world. That's not what Arkansas is ever going to be, unless all of a sudden Walmart decides to break the bank in terms of NIL funding, and maybe a little bit of success and prove it yourself that Alex Golesh more than likely is capable of. That could end up being the case, that they end up having an incredible talent roster, but that's to be seen, of course. You have a coach that I believe the expectation going into the first couple of years of Arkansas football is, can you see the development? It's not going to be seen year one. You're going to get a ton of transfers. You're going to get a ton of guys. You want to see progress from year one to year two, because the MO and what you're expecting with Alex Golesh to Arkansas is a guy that can develop and get the most out of these talented players that he can bring in. It's not going to be a guy that's going to be selling you snake oil that I can bring in all these different 4-stars. It's more about the evaluation of gems and being able to develop them. Very similar to what we talked about with Eric Morris in Oklahoma State, a coach that can find the hidden diamonds within the rough, a guy that can develop guys at the most important position, the quarterback position. Now, I know people have talked about Byron Brown potentially making the move to USF, and we've talked about Drew Messamaker as well from North Texas going to Oklahoma State. I'm waiting to see if that actually happens. I know that's a common trend that we see within college football. But I think my number one question, right, is a lot of times when we talk about the new coaching hires, we get real fixated on the top guy, and that's understandable. But my number one question for Arkansas is, what is that defensive staff going to look like? Because I have confidence that their offense is going to be good, especially early in the tenure for Alex Golesh. That's his MO. That's his specialty. But that's been the specialty for Arkansas with Bobby Petrino and Sam Pittman over the past couple of years, and their defense is egregious. It is one of the worst defenses, easily the worst defense in the SEC, at least this year. They come in, they fire Sam Pittman, they fire the entire defensive staff, and it gets worse. What is that defensive staff going to look like? Because I think that's what's going to make or break success early for a guy like Alex Golesh. I think managing expectations early and often, I mean, the expectations should be 6 feet under the ground when we're talking about Arkansas. Over the past 5 years, it's going down from 2025 to the last 5. We have currently 2-9, 7-6, 4-8, 7-6, and 9-4. And man, that 9-4 season was magical, wasn't it? It convinced everyone that Sam Pittman was going to be the guy. And man, has it been a painful past 4 years. I mean, Arkansas, being a fan of their sports teams in general, is a painful, emotional roller coaster. The last time they had double-digit wins was 2011. They went back-to-back years going double-digit. I believe it was 10 and 11 wins, respectively. Anyways, to the original point about the expectations, what is going to be the expectations for Alex Golesh? I think it's going to be dependent on what that defensive staff is and the narrative around that. Who are you going to bring out at the quarterback position? More than likely through the portal. It could be KJ Jackson, unless he hops in the portal. We saw the firing of Sam Pittman written on the wall for months before it actually happened. I mean, even in the offseason leading up to the 2025 season, you usually can tell when a ton of the players end up going into the portal. They're kind of seeing the writing on the wall themselves, and they're in the building. And as a fan on the outside, you can tell as well. I think if I were to give this a grade, if I were to give Alex Golesh a grade from Arkansas, I would say B+. My gut was saying A-, but I'm really holding on to giving an A grade to a James Franklin to Virginia Tech. I think that's an A+ hire. I think that's a slam dunk. You hit it out of the park. And there was a lot of hype around the Arkansas hiring, and it sounded like the job search was very chaotic. It was, I guess, disjointed is the best way that I've heard, I guess, describing the job search. And it sounded like they went through a ton of guys. It sounded like they hired or they interviewed everyone on the face of the planet. I may have been interviewed for the Arkansas job and I didn't even know it. There's a lot of candidates that were scanned through, and it doesn't sound like there was the utmost confidence that Alex Golesh is a group of 5 coach that could step into an SEC job and it could absolutely hit the ground running. Now, I could be absolutely wrong on that. I'm a big believer in Alex Golesh. I think out of the Ryan Silverfield, the John Summerall, and him in that G5 ranks, I felt pretty good that he was going to work out somewhere. But it is a jump to an Arkansas that is a fan base that is just starving for any kind of success. And so I give it a B+, but it could definitely be talked into maybe a B, B-. It's a risky hire. I'll say that. I think that going from that G5 ranks with not a lot of proven capability, I don't think if the narrative, or I don't know if the narrative is that he was lacking the resources to really get to those double-digit wins and be one of those top teams within the group of 5, that if you supply him with the resources of an Arkansas, that he could just absolutely maximize the talent there. It's to be seen. It's to be seen. So I think I would give this a B+ grade for Alex Golesh to Arkansas.